Namaskaram, I'm L. Srinivasan, and this is the second episode on Patanjali Yoga Sutra. Patanjali Yoga Sutra is divided into four chapters. The first one is Samadhipada, which explains its spiritual uses. Second one is Sadhana Pada, which explains its practices. Third one is Vibhuti Pada, which explains its powers. Fourth one is Kaivalya Pada, which is the independence. Now, before moving on to the second sutra, I would like to explain more about Chitta. I think Chitta deserves some more points. Swami Vivekananda has written that Chitta has five forms. The first one is scattering form, second one is darkening form, third one is gathering form, fourth one is one pointed concentration, fifth one is intense concentration. Now, scattering is an activity. That activity can give us pleasure or pain. It may be an official office work or some kind of game. Now, second one is darkening. Darkening explains that the person is dull, and being dull tends to injury. Lord Sri Krishna explained in chapter 3 in Bhagavad Gita, Sharira yatra apichate na prasiddhet akarmanaha. Meaning, what is Sharira Yatra? Is it about living 100 years? If we can't even do physical yatra, what about the yogic yatra? Now the third one is gathering. Gathering speaks about the struggle which we go through to bring thoughts together. Struggling to bring thoughts together. I think this is very much common for students when they write examinations, just struggling to bring thoughts together. The next one is one pointed concentration, and the fifth one is intense concentration. Now, one pointed concentration says that when we are concentrated, when we are concentrated to an extent where we ignore small disturbances such as mosquito bites and etc., that is one pointed concentration. Now, an example from the Purana is Shakuntala. When she was engrossed in the thought of her lover, King Dushyanta, she didn't even know that sage Durvasa was calling her, and in fact he was standing next to her because of her one-pointed concentration towards King Dushyanta. But eventually sage Durvasa cursed her, that's different. But because of her one-pointed concentration, she could not notice sage Durvasa. Now in our lives, we are in between scattering, darkening and gathering most of the time. And sometimes we touch this one-pointed concentration. The fifth point is intense concentration. Now when Swami Vivekananda says intense concentration, he means intense. So this is what second sutra says. Tada drashtuhu swarupe avasthanam. Now we know what happens when we are doing one pointed concentration. We ignore little disturbances, right? What happens when we are doing intense concentration? That is the second sutra. Tada drashtuhu swarupe avasthanam. When the seer is highly concentrated, the Purusha lies in its own state. This is the literal translation. Now what happens when the seer is not highly concentrated? That is the third sutra, which is Vritti Sarupyam Itaratra. When the seer is not concentrated, that person is identified with the modifications. Right? When we are not concentrated, we identify ourselves. It doesn't have to be religion or caste. It can also be I am bored, or I'm active, or I feel like I want to go for walking, or I feel like watching a movie. These are also identifications. So what are the five identifications? Patanjali says there are five types of modifications. Vrittayaha, Panchatayyaha, Klishta. Vrittayaha, Panchatayyaha, Klishta. There are five types of modifications. Some painful, some are not painful. Because when we identify ourselves with these modifications, sometimes we end up in misery. Sometimes we may not. So the five modifications are pramana, viparyaya, vikalpa, nidrasmritayaha. Right knowledge, indiscrimination, verbal delusion, sleep, and memory. These are the 5 modifications, which is when the person is not concentrated, that person is identified in either all these 5 or a few of them or one of them. So if we may end up in misery or we may not. That's what Swami Vivekananda translates, that if we identify ourselves with modifications, we may end up in misery. Now, before going on to the next sutra, I would like to explain about karma with inference to Raja Yoga. Karma is divided into 3 branches. First one is Sanchita karma. Second one is Prarabdha karma. Third one is Agami karma. Sanchita karma is the past karma for which we will bear the fruits in the near future. Prarabdha karma is also the past karma but for which we are bearing the fruits right now. Agami karma is the karma which we are currently doing for which we will bear the fruits in the later future. Now, karma itself doesn't mean bad doing. Sanchita karma or Prarabdha karma can be good or bad. Depending upon that, we will bear the fruits for such actions. Now, using Raja Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Karma Yoga, we can completely cancel out Sanchita karma and Agami karma. But we can never cancel out Prarabdha karma. We can decrease its effect, but we cannot cancel out the Prarabdha karma. There is a shloka in Lingashtakam, Sanchita Papa Vinashana Lingam Tat Pranamami Sadashiva Lingam. So praying to Lord Shiva, we destroy the Sanchita Papam. Sanchita karma can be good also. So why should we destroy the good Sanchita karma? Sanchita Papa, the bad Sanchita karmas can be destroyed by showing bhakti to Lord Shiva. And Prarabdha karma, here Prarabdha karma is not mentioned. And Agami karma cannot be mentioned because that is what we are currently doing. It can be good or it can be bad. So Prarabdha karma's effect can be reduced, and this explains why the greatest devotees and the greatest yogis have also had difficult times. And the concept of curses and blessings are based on the karmas. Sage Patanjali says, nobody can curse. But in Hindu scriptures, curses and blessings are like vowels. Well, what Patanjali says exactly is, the curse and blessing is based upon the Sanchita karma and Prarabdha karma of the person. Only a rishi or a person who's having tapashakti can time it and organize it. For example, when King Parikshit got a curse from a rishi, he got a curse that in 7 days he will die due to a snake bite. See, even if the sage had not cursed him, eventually he would have got his Prarabdha karma. Maybe not in the same time period or not in the same way. So a rishi or a person who is having tapashakti can only time the bad Prarabdha karma and Sanchita karma and also organize it. We don't need to be worried if we are not able to bless someone or curse someone, because eventually it will happen. It's just that because we don't have tapashakti, we are not able to time it and organize it for that particular person. The guru of Swami Vivekananda, sage Ramakrishna Paramahamsar, he had cancer, and the doctor told him to focus his tapashakti on his body. He didn't want to do it because for him Sharira is just something which is made up of the 5 elements, the Panchabhutas. Even though all his students, all his disciples also insisted that he should use his tapashakti on his body so that at least he can eat food properly. Even then, sage Ramakrishna Paramahamsar did not agree. Now, this is what Yoga of the West is currently doing. There's a fundamental difference between Yoga of the West and Yoga of the East. Now, what do they teach in Yoga of the West? They ask the students to do asanas and meditation and focus between the junction between the eyes, on the tip of the nose, or on the spine. Now, we are not denying on that. There are 8 steps to do Raja Yoga. The first 4 are Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama. The Yoga of the West directly goes to the third one, Yama, Niyama, Asana. They directly go to the third one, which is Asana, then the fourth one, which is Pranayama. Now, if 8 steps can give moksham, I'm sure at least directly doing third step and fourth step will give some addition to their materialistic life. And that's their objective. Sage Valmiki says in Ramayanam, Manohi hetuhu sarvesham indriyanam pravartane. Even the work does not matter, but only the intentions matter. Now, what does Yoga of the East say? What are the core philosophies of Raja Yoga? The basic philosophy in Raja Yoga is that you should get moksham. The Atma should get moksham or mukti or nirvikalpa samadhi. Apart from this, what are the other philosophies of Raja Yoga? Sage Patanjali explains in the next chapter, which is Sadhanapada. He says, Prakasha Kriya Sthiti Bhutendriyatmakam Bhoga Parvagarthan Drishyam. Now, I am reading the translation, literal translation. The experienced is composed of elements and organs, is of the nature of illumination, which is sattva, action, which is rajas, and inertia, which is tamas, and is for the purpose of experience and release, which is of the sea. Swami Vivekananda explains this sutra in a very simplistic manner. Once, Lord Indra, the king of the gods, got a curse and became a pig on earth. He was living a pig's life. He married a female pig and had kids with the wife, with the pig wife. Now, when the Devas saw this, they were shocked. The Devas went to Indra and said, Lord Indra, all Devas are under your command. All worlds are under your command. And here you are living a pig's life. Lord Indra replied, Look, I am enjoying this pig's life. Meet my wife pig, meet my baby pigs. I am enjoying this life. The Devas didn't know what to do. They killed the baby pigs and also the wife pig. And the Indra, who's in a pig form, is weeping and worrying. And eventually the Devas cut open the pig body of Lord Indra. And then Lord Indra spoke. Oh my God, what a fool I have been. I thought the pig life was the only life. The pig's life was the only life. And not only that, I also thought that all life forms on the universe must follow the pig's life because that's the best life. Now, there's a very important philosophy here. Swami Vivekananda says, the Atma does not know because Atma is knowledge itself. Atma does not exist. Atma is existence itself. Atma does not love. Atma is love itself. These are the three main philosophies of Raja Yoga. Now, to do Raja Yoga, should we be a sannyasi? This is explained by the great sage Adi Shankara. He says, Jetilo mundi lunchita keshaha kashayam bara bahukrita veshaha. All these so-called sannyasis are only doing external false show, but inside they're enjoying all worldly pleasures. These are just external false shows. So what is important? He says, Yasya brahmani ramate chittan nandati eva. He who is constantly fixing his mind on the Lord, and he only experiences the bliss. Now, should you have knowledge? That is a verse in the Smriti. Vaidushe vidishan tadvat bhuktaye natu muktaye. Which says all these learned pandits are only trying to show their superiority using their knowledge, but not trying to experience the bliss which is told in the sacred scriptures. The next sutra is Pratyakshanumana Gamaha Pramanani. Patanjali says there are three types of proofs for the modifications which we discussed. First one is Pratyaksham, which is direct perception. For example, you see, using your senses, you're knowing it. It's Pratyaksham, which is called direct perception. Second one is using logic, which is Anumana or inference. Tarkashastra has written a lot about this. Yatra dhumaha tatra agnihi. Where there is smoke, there is fire. So the person has not seen fire or felt fire. Since the person has seen the smoke, that person is inferring that there is fire. Yatra dhumaha tatra agnihi. The third one is agami, which speaks about competent evidence or a reliable source. If you trust a person, if you think the person is having a lot of integrity